welcome you to the series of seminars in magnetism and magnetic materials, which is an event organized by Alma, la Asociación Latinoamericana de Magnetismo in Construction, which is this webinar will be streamed by YouTube and Zoom through the links which you see on your screens. Please, if you have any comment or question about Alma, you can email us to this email address, or you can visit our Facebook site at this address also. But you can look for it in the web very easily. We have had so far this year 3 webinars, the one by Marcelo Nobel, Miguel Novak, and by Miguel Kiwi. You can access to these webinars by YouTube in YouTube. So please feel free to share these webinars with your colleagues and other people interested in magnetism, whatever. We have 5 so far. We have 5 notes for Alma in Latin America, and recently Eugenio Vogel Matamala has replaced Dora Albert in Chile, and we have also the participation of Jose Andrés Matutes Aquino from Mexico. So we expect that the number of countries in Alma will be increasing fast in the next months, and we will let you know that we are organizing other activities beyond the webinars, like a Latin American school in magnetism for next year. And I have a pleasure to introduce our today's session chair, and I will give a brief profile of Professor Ana Roy Serra. Ana is a research professor at the Institute of de Ciencias dels Materials de Barcelona, where she leads the nanoparticles and nanocomposites group. Ana has published about 200 research papers, some book chapters, and some popular science articles, and has registered 7 patents. Ana has supervised 13 PhD theses. 6 of them has been awarded as best PhD thesis at the Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, and currently she is supervising 4 other PhD theses. She has advised 12 master sciences theses, and Ana has been principal investigator of 20 projects at national and international levels, and has participated in more than 60. She has given numerous plenary and invited talks at conferences, and has been invited to also gives talks at other centers, has an inviolable age index and a lot of citations. Ana has lived and worked for extended periods of time in Sweden, the United States of America, the United Kingdom, Poland, and Belgium. She was professionally and educationally engaged with the KTH Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm and at the Northeastern University in Boston. Recently, she spent over 2 years as a seconded national expert in Brussels at the Research Directorate. And among many other cultural and geopolitical interests, Ana loves Argentinian tango. So please, Ana, you are welcome to chair in this session.
So, Kike, many thanks for this abbreviated CV. One feels old when hears something like this. So it is a real double pleasure for me to introduce this seminar on magnetic nanomedicine by Professor Fernández van Raap in the context of the series of the webinars organized by Alma, which is a beautiful name. And I say double pleasure because first, I am very much interested in the subject. And second, Marcela is a long-time collaborator and a friend. So actually, our first paper that we co-authored already dates of 2005. And since then, we have joined forces in some projects, and also we have joined forces to argue with reviewers and editors. And I say that we make a very good team on that. Professor Fernández is currently IP of the Institute of Física de la Universidad Nacional de La Plata, and she combines her teaching duties with intense research activity towards the validation of magnetic systems in medicine. Marcela has supervised many PhD, master, and undergraduates, and she has established an extensive network of collaborators, both in Argentina and in Europe, in particular in Italy, Spain, and Germany. So I think that while we are waiting for the US that are counting votes slowly, I cannot think of a better activity to do than to learn new things about magnetism and the use in nanomedicine. So Marcela, floor is yours. We are listening.
Well, thank you very much, Anna, for such a nice introduction. Let's share. Well, place this. For being here today. Good afternoon. And first, I would like to thank the organizing committee for the invitation. I must say my connection is not stable. I choose this name for the talk, Magnetic Nanomedicines. So we'll see what it comes. Okay, I have been asked to give the talk in Spanish because it is a Latin American conference. I'm very sure about that English is the language of science. So I would like to keep science in English, and I will give my talk in English. And if you don't understand, or someone of you do not understand, I try to write everything down. And if you want to ask, answer anyway. So let's start with the definition of nanomedicine. It's a branch of medicine that uses knowledge and tools of nanotechnology for prevention, detection, and treatment of disease, uses nanoscale, biocompatible and biodegradable materials for diagnosis, delivery, sensing, actuation, and purpose in humans. Of course, magnetic nanomedicines must properties and also outstanding magnetic properties. So let's say in this talk, I will the approval state of magnetic nanomedicines. We have been studying these 8 months without being able to go to the lab. So we have new ideas. We want to share the new ideas. And then I will go briefly to 3 particular works I have been involved, one in a collaboration which is a nanoparticle design to improve clearance from the body. In oncology, as an application of oncology, my group for many years. And More recently, I have been working in an application for regenerative medicine, what we call field-assisted magnetic stem cell therapy. So this is the outline. I will go on. First, let's classify nanomedicines. The first classification we can make is we can put on one side the inorganic nanoparticles, on the other side the organic nanoparticles, and it is very clear that organic nanoparticles are more biocompatible and biodegradable and more biological than inorganic nanoparticles, and that inorganic nanoparticles may have serious problems with clearance. Of course, once we have the nanoparticle, we can put many things in the surface. We can put a targeting ligand, a drug molecule, a radiotracer, a fluorophore, a dye we can use for therapy, and we can use for imaging. Those we are interested in today is the iron oxide or iron oxide-based nanoparticles, what can be called magnetic nanoparticles. And I would like to analyze with you, to review with you what is approved by regulatory agencies like FDA, Food and Drug Administration, of the one in Europe, AMC, which are the approvals. So let's say, if we go to the literature and we search, we can see that there are several formulation that has approval for the agencies, principal in liposomal formulation, polymeric and protein-based. But when we go to inorganic materials, the approvals are much less in number, and when we go find only approval formulations with approval for iron replacement therapies in anemia, for instance, as imaging agent in magnetic resonance imaging, and as thermal ablation for tumors 1. If we listed them, we can see iron deficiency, we have several, and magnetic resonance imaging, we also have several, and for thermal treatment with nanoparticles and electromagnetic fields in glioblastoma and prostate cancer, we have one from Nanotherm. If we look further inside, we can see which one are discontinued or withdraw or not used anymore in medicine, and we find that there are several, all that has something here in red, are discontinued, so there are no much left to be in use nowadays. And which is the reason? The reason is related to safety concerns. So we have been 8 months not going to the lab. We can think about this. So as we can think about this, okay, let's go through what a nanomedicine has to do in the body. First, there is an administration process, can be systemic in blood circulation, or can be local, directly injected in the target. So if we go through systemic circulation, from systemic circulation has to reach the target, and then we have to care about uptake, accumulation, distribution, off-target effects, toxicity. Now we have to talk about the efficacy of the nanomedicine to perform the assigned task. And then comes intracellular traffic, enzymatic lysosomal degradation, and then goes back to the blood systemic circulation. And when we reach here, after performing the task, we have 2 possibilities. One is the hepatobiliary clearance path, and the other one is the renal clearance path. And depending on the size of the nanoparticle, which one will be taken. And if we go through the hepatobiliary clearance path, we have to go to molecular phagocytic system, and from there to liver. And then there are 2 options, to build and read out, or many particles can accumulate in the liver, and when they accumulate in the liver, persist there, and then we will have what is called long-term retention, which has long-term toxicity. And I think this is one of the huge problems with the nanoparticles, especially with the magnetic nanoparticles. But we always hear that magnetic nanoparticles are good ones because iron has his own ways. in the body. Let's ask then why iron-based nanoparticles. We can see that can have both beneficial and deleterious properties. Iron is very flexible material, can have oxidation states from -2 to 6, being the principals 2 and 3, and iron 3 is quite insoluble in water, so it's toxic. Iron redox potential can be controlled by selective chelation. Iron is an essential element for life in some body functions, and for instance, we have like 4 grams in the body, and is distributed. 68% is in blood, 27% is in liver, spleen, and brain, as stored as ferritin. This is the point more interesting, and in other functions, there are some iron distributed and having functions and locations. But I would like to go to ferritin, what happened with ferritin, which is related to what has to be done with iron after it has performed his task. I would like to say also that daily intake of iron is from 1 to 1.5 milligrams per day. This is what we eat. Iron is also a promoter of cell growth and proliferation. And then iron is also involved in tumor growth potential, and which is related to the density of transferrin receptor, TFR1, iron uptake by receptor-mediated endocytosis, and from divalent metal transporter 1. So iron has, as I already said, we say beneficial, but can also have deleterious properties. Ferritin is the protein that stores and releases iron in a controlled manner, acts as a buffer against iron deficiency and against iron overload. Then what happened with ferritin? This is very nice nanocase. We have drawn here. It's a globular nanocase, 24 peptided subunits, and has inside apoferritin, which is the ferritin without the iron 3, which is stored as ferriterate. This is a structure that has, and you can see that there is some threefold channels with 3 of these units, peptides units meet. There's a hole here, and through this hole, hydrated iron can go in and out. So by this way, labile iron can go into ferritin and become stored there to be used when it is needed, or can get out when it is needed. Fold channel. This 4-4 channel is hydrophobic. Being hydrophobic is not useful for this type of transfer. Then only can transfer, it's believed, can transfer charge to stabilize charge. And nice to notice that the size of apoferritin is from 10 to 12 nanometers. Let's say it's in the nanoscale also as the particles. So we need to ask ourselves if we can distinguish nanoparticles from this nanocase, and we can do it. High resolution TEM can see the ferritin structure that has like a hole in the middle. So you can see like a hole here, 2 nanometer hole. This makes it possible to distinguish between a complete nanoparticle or iron that went to ferritin and start to become from bad iron to good iron, for saying so clearly. What else with iron? Iron catalyzes reactive oxygen species too. Okay, so a sequential reduction of molecular oxygen can produce peroxide ion. Once we have peroxide, this peroxide at physiological pH will protonate very fast, and then will be hydrogen peroxide. When we have hydrogen peroxide, can interact with ferrous iron to produce hydroxyl free radical. So we have here the hydroxyl free radical, and also at the presence of trace amount of iron, the peroxide ion can interact And if we will look to these two equations and we add these two equations, we will end with Haber-Base equation, and Haber-Base equation involve all the reactive oxygen species. Then we have this, we can have all these reactive oxygen species. This is what is called intracellular ROEs that can trigger lipidic peroxidation. Lipidic peroxidation means oxidative degradation, damage to phospholipid bilayer cell membranes, also to proteins and DNA. Excessive iron, ionic iron, may trigger a recently proposed regulated cell death named ferroptosis. I would like to briefly show. Let's say ferroptosis was first introduced through elastin. Elastin is a small molecule that inhibits cysteine uptake, weakening antioxidant defense of the cell. When this is weakening, and we have endogenous iron, we have lipidic rot. When we have lipidic rot, we have a new form of cell death, regulated cell death, caused by peroxidation, which is non-apoptotic, iron-dependent oxidative cell death. This was proposed for the first time in 2012, not so far. And later, it has been proposed that iron-based nanoparticles can participate in this process once nanoparticles is endocyte, if it goes through dissolution, and from dissolution to femton reaction, from femton reaction to ROS, and then lipidic peroxidation, and the nanoparticle can also produce ferroptosis as a new form of inducing death in the cells. Okay. Once we have this introduction, I would like to go to specific research. I have been involved through collaborations or directly in my lab or in another labs here in Argentina, where I go every week. They have me there every week. So let's go first with this, what we call 4D potential nanomedicine. It's a non-equilibrium gold-iron alloy. These experiments were performed at the University di Padova in Italy, led by Vincenzo Amendola, Dr. Vincenzo Amendola. I collaborate with him. I have visited his department. He visited mine. We have some research ongoing. So at his lab, he performed laser ablation synthesis. In this opportunity, he used a bimetallic gold-iron target to produce non-equilibrium FCC gold-iron nanoalloy, and we have proved that this nanoalloy has the ability to change shape, size, and structure over time, becoming ultra small, iron rich, and it's efficient for multimodal construct agents like MRI and compute tomography. And also I will show some in vivo experiment that shows that gold iron nanoparticles self-degrade over time with significant reduction of long-term accumulation in the body, particularly in sleep. So we have here here we have iron gold nanoparticle, and we see that when the nanoparticle is kept in citrate base, making lysosomal acidity, the position of the peak changes. Also in phosphate base at 7.4, the position of the peak change to a position that is coincident with gold nanoparticle. So if we look to BUBBs, in the starting gold iron nanoparticle, we don't have the plasmon, but after aging, we start having the plasmon. And if we see small angular crystalline scattering, we see a huge change also in the alloy. The alloy also has magnetic properties. The starting alloy has magnetic properties. We show here some steam measurement that shows the simultaneous presence of gold and iron in the alloy. And then what I would like to see, what we are saying is that that iron is going out of the gold iron alloy. Iron is going out, and once iron is going out, the nanoparticles are becoming smaller. You see here, for instance, we have the starting nanoparticle, and 60 days after at 4.7 pH, the sizes has drastically reduced. The same happens here. There is a huge size evolution, huge size evolution, and the faster degradation occurs at lysosomal pH 4.7 than physiological pH. We can see here, following in time, how is the evolution following with TEM, and although it's faster at 4.7, when we reach 2 months, the sizes are almost the same, so iron gets dissolved in the buffer. Okay, then I will show very briefly some computed tomography results. First, they have studied phantoms. We can see here the colors. If we have 2.7 milligrams of gold per milliliters, we have these colors, and if we decrease the gold, we go to this color. Then we can see here the spleen of the meats before injection, 24 hours. You start here seeing here something of a color, something like this color, and then following the days, you see that this area becomes narrower, and also become more bright. And we can compare with gold nanoparticles, and then what we are seeing here is that gold is going over the days, is getting out of the spleen. We can analyze liver, spleen, kidney, see how is the signal. See, we have a maximum at some time, and then goes down. The seeing that it goes down means that went out of the spleen, and probably to circulatory and to urinary pathway. And if we can compare here the amount of relative increase of the signal for gold nanoparticles and for iron gold nanoparticles, and we see that there is more persistence of gold nanoparticles than we look at this like an improvement in clearance. And the nanoparticle has also been analyzed for MRI in an MRI scanner. Also, if we see here the phantoms, and we see we have much iron, we have dark color. If we don't have iron, we have a gray color. So we can see here in the images, we see that the colors change, and the colors change in a situation that is indicating that the iron is getting out of the nanoparticle, as we already saw in vitro, and we can compare with EndoREM, and in EndoREM you see that there is no change in the color like happens in the iron gold nanoparticle. Well, we have a study also the biodistribution of the nanoparticle. Here is not so clear as with gold, but also if we compare gold iron nanoparticle with iron nanoparticle, we see in the iron nanoparticle larger signal. This is what I'm calling now iron oxide nanoparticle is ENDOREM, which is an iron oxide nanoparticle, just commercially available. There is more persistence for this nanoparticle than for the gold iron nanoparticle. So we understand this study as an indication of a reduction of a long-term accumulation in the body when compared with benchmark gold and iron oxide contrast agents. Okay, then I breathe and I keep going. And I will talk now about oncological magnetic thermotherapy. We have to locate the nanoparticle in the tumor, apply a magnetic field, get a temperature increase. Depending on the range of the temperature increase, we can have apoptosis or we can have necrosis. Do we have ferroptosis? This is a nice question to try to make some experiment. I think it is under analysis. This procedure relies in the fact that we assume selectivity, safety, low toxicity, enough biocompatibility, clearance mechanism that we already know needs improvement. So also, when we apply an alternative magnetic field, we can have eddy currents. Eddy currents can produce non-specific heating that can damage healthy tissue, that makes a limit on the magnitude of the fields, on the frequency of the field we can apply, and the amplitude of the field we can apply it. And this is a biological limited. I always like to show our applicators. This is a commercial one that has this nice range of point of fields and frequency. You can choose whenever you like. And we also have this one that was constructed in La Plata that can be used for in vivo and in vitro experiments. So we can measure this specific absorption rate parameter, which is telling us how good is the nanoparticle to take energy from the electromagnetic field and dissipate in the sample in the tumor as heat. Okay, this procedure relies in magnetic relaxation mechanism. In a magnetic relaxation mechanism, we have our single magnetic domain nanoparticle, and this nanoparticle has to override this energy barrier. Can be done using two mechanisms. One is the Nell mechanism, where the nanoparticle is fixed in the space and the magnetic moment switch from one direction to the other, and the other one is a Brown mechanism, where the particle itself with the magnetic moment rotates in the space. In any case, what we have is the magnetization lags behind the field, and due to this lag, there is a heat release. We have studied over the years many nanoparticles produced by different methodologies. We have analyzed size, polydispersity, shape, anisotropy, aggregation, structure, dipolar interaction, influence. We have analyzed everything, as many people in the community, and at the end we ask ourselves which are the relevant nanoparticle properties that we can use to predict a real colloid, not a colloid that has no interaction or has no aggregation. One real colloid that can be used in the clinic. Which are these properties? Because this energy barrier that is very important is affected for all of these properties I just mentioned: anisotropy, size, aggregation, dipolar interaction. We cannot manage, for instance, dipolar interaction. We cannot manage aggregation. Here is a very nice cryo-TEM image that shows that this colloid here, we see it we see it like a very nice node that aggregated, has already some aggregation. So we can go through them and see which is the mean value. We can measure SAR, we can measure saturation magnetization, we can do some nice experiment of coercitive field, low temperature coercitive field against temperature, analyze these coercitive fields against temperature using different fitting parameters than what are always using. We use entity magnetic moment and the haze of the energy barrier to fit, and from there we can have a mean energy barrier, and we can prove that using these three values we can predict how the nanopart, how is going to be the specific absorption rate of the nanoparticle, and how it's going to behave as a frequency, as a function of field amplitude and frequency. So we can say that the specific absorption rate can be theoretically reproduced using a semi-empirical model for clinical settings of frequency and field amplitude around biological limits, which helps to determine the dosage. Then from all these particles, we had just this one, which is a very nice particle, which actually is a nanocluster, where particles are crystallographically aligned. This picture was, this one I'm pointing now, was taken by Dr. Muraka. I want to say it, he's here. And so, using this nice nanoflower, we went to experiment in vivo and ex vivo with melanoma tumors. And what we found that, for instance, if we have an agarose gel with 2.3 milligram iron, we have a very nice increase of temperature. If we put this quantity in a tumor, we have no heating, and if we put twice this, we have no heating, and we have to increase the amount of nanoparticles up to 55 milligrams iron. 55 milligram iron is a lot of iron. It's too much iron. If you remember the numbers I told you when I asked why iron, so you will find that this is too much iron. So mass of iron injected to achieve enough tumor heating at biomedical conditions of fields and amplitudes are way too high. If you go to higher frequencies and field amplitudes, we have done this, you will have a very nice heating. But at the biomedical conditions, the mass of iron that has to be injected is way too far, too high. This has to be improved. Okay, I will go to my last but very important example today. This is a brand new result I'm going to talk now. It's already unpublished. It's in regenerative medicine, and there is no previous work in what I will tell to you today about peripheral nerve regeneration using field-assisted multipotent magnetic cell therapy. It's the first experiment performed of this kind, and stem cells, I can say, have the unique ability to self-renew and to differentiate in various types of cells, then are used in tissue repair, replacement, and regeneration. And then it's becoming very attractive in regenerative medicine and stem cell therapies. So we have combined magnetic properties to improve the number of cells that spontaneously can arrive to an injured site for a sciatic nerve. This is a magnetic force that a nanoparticle of magnetic moment mu feels when it is inside a field gradient. So this is what mathematically we are using, and we perform our experiment using neodymium iron boron magnet, which has in its surface 0.16 Tesla field. So let's say this is the work, the PhD work of a student, Paula Soto, who I think is here too today. And she works under the supervision of Patricia Seton and under my co-supervision. And this very nice work, first time performed, is under revision. So you can see here a Wister rat, and the Wister rat has a damage on the sciatic nerve. And this is the crash we have here. And then what we do, we have adipose derived mesenchymal stem cells that were incubated with nanoparticles. Nanoparticles are located inside endosomes of the cells, so the cells itself become magnetic and can have a response to a magnetic field. So this is transplanted. There is an injection in the tail vein, and a magnet is placed here, and we analyze the recovery of the sciatic nerve if we inject a vehicle or not treated, let's say, or it is injected only the cells, or the cells, the nanoparticles, and the magnet. Let's go to this. So I have time, yes. So the model is a model called Valerian Degeneration. It's among all the damage a person can have in a sciatic nerve. This is the one that can be think as reversible, can be recovered. I'm showing here an axon, a myelinated axon, and you have here normal axons. You see this is the myeline, and this is a degenerated axon. So, and this is a schematic, and the rat here has the lesion. This is called ipsilateral, and this one is the contralateral, and this is the injection. Okay, let's go to this. Okay, what happened is, let's say we are combining cell therapy and magnetic nanotechnology. Cell therapy involves cell isolation from either patient or donor, and that's transplantation systemically, or can also be transplanted at the injured tissue or organs. The experiment we have done is with systemic transplantation. Has to be used stem cells because they have the unique property to develop into specialized type cells in the body. We expect the regeneration, and also that the nerve restore normal sensory and motor functioning. This is combined with magnetic nanotechnology, nanoparticles, and static magnetic field gradient, and this is something we can call field-assisted stem cell nanoparticle therapy of magnetic targeting, we used to call in the lab. Let's say Paula has performed the primary cultures and extracted adipose derived mesenchymal stem cells and characterized to see if they really are multipotent cells, what they are. You can see here the markers. I'm not going into the details, but this nice imaging is telling us that multipotency markers are expressed, so these cells are what we wanted them to be. And then we have the complete magnetic and structural and physicochemical properties analysis. So we have a nanoparticle of 9 nanometers, and we have a very nice saturation magnetization, which is very important, thinking in the magnetic field. And then we went to in vitro experiment with nanoparticle has to be incorporated in the cells that are going to be later transplanted in the mice. And we have also evaluated in vitro induced toxicity, possible induced toxicity. So we have seen using vibrating sample magnetometry that around 5 picogram of iron is incorporated in the cell, that there is no much toxicity, and using transmission electron microscopy, we can see that the nanoparticles locate in endosomes, and we can see here the endosomes, and so nanoparticles can be incorporated without much toxicity, cytotoxicity increase. This can also be analyzed using flow cytometry. I like this. I like very much this experiment because you can say, yeah, you have incubated with different concentrations, but you don't know how many particles are going into the cell. So how much is the uptake? It could be the same uptake. Is a possibility, but if we see two-side scattering histogram, which is related to cell granularity, we see that this area starts to increase, and this increase is related to the uptake. This is telling us that the uptake is increasing. Although the uptake is increasing, the ion incorporation is increasing, we don't have much toxicity or loss of viability registered. So this is an experiment where we have the rat, the injection, and so we need to see if the injected cells has arrived to the injured site, and also we need to see if the cells are still having the magnetic nanoparticles. So here is an experiment with the cell was labeled with a dye, red dye. So you see the nucleus of the cells in blue, and the cells in red. So what you see in red are transplanted cells that has reached the injury site. And here you see this red signal, which is from the nanoparticles, telling us that nanoparticles are also there. Okay, we can also see using transmission electron microscopy that transplanted cells reach the nerve, the injured site. Here, these are microscopy images of the nerves, and we see these cells. These cells are the transplanted cells, are not cells that we are going to expect in a control, for instance. So, and if we compare with the culture, with an image from adipose derived mesenchymal stem cells in culture, we see the same type of cells. So we are observing the cells that reach the area. We'll go through this, and then Paula has analyzed the regenerative effect of this. I have a problem with this. I have something going up and down. I don't know if you see it in the presentation, but I do. So I was saying that Paula has analyzed regenerative effect of adipose derived mesenchymal stem cells through histological analysis after 7 days of treatment. You have here a control. When you see all myelinated axons, many myelinated axons, very nice. You have here what is degenerated and not treated. You don't see the myelinated axons. So you see here a mice that was treated just with cells. You see some recovery, very low recovery, and now this is the one treated with cells loaded with magnetic nanoparticles and treated with the magnet. And you see there are many axons that are recovering. Here is some quantification, and you see here that there is significant differences, statistical, between the mice treated with cells and magnetic targeting than the mice treated only with cells. So we can say that magnetic targeting can greatly improve this therapy. Well, Paula has also analyzed a regenerative effect on the myelin using myelin protein organization. So you can see here, this is the control. If you see this here, where I have the pointer, this is how a healthy myelina looks like. So if we see the proximal has not much damage, but the one that has all the damage is the distal. So the proximal looks nice, like this one. And when we go to the distal, non-treated, you see everything in blue. When you go only cells, there is some recovering, but not much. And when you go to cells plus magnetic targeting, you see a huge recovering. This looks like very similar to the control. And this is also nice to be seen in the quantification. So myelin is getting more recovered. And finally, just to end, Paula has also studied and performed electrophysiological analysis in live animals. So in electrophysiological analysis, you have a signal. This is the signal, and there is this is the excitation signal, and this is the response signal. And there are two parameters that are being measured. One is the latency, which is the time difference between the signal and excitation signal and response signal. So if the myelin is very nice, this latency has a small value. If the animal has the damage and has not been treated, you see this time is very long. And if you is treated with cells, it's not that long, but still long, and gets better when it's treated with adipose mesenchymal stem cells plus magnetic targeting. The other parameter is the amplitude, which is related to the axonal state. How many axons are responding, are having signals, transmitting signals. And this is not so clear. We seems to be an improvement, but not as nice as we would like this to be. But this one is a very nice result, and is an improvement related to just only adipose-derived mesenchymal stem cell therapy. We are almost every experiment is showing that magnetic targeting produces an improvement. So just to conclude, I would like to say that there is a need of improvement in magnetic nanomedicine, biodegradability and clearance, as well as nanomedicine degradation kinetic assessment. I think we need to measure and be clear about some kinetic assessment. If we are pointing to translation to clinics regarding magnetic hyperthermia at biomedical field settings, it is to achieve heating requires higher doses, which may induce ROS, but these ROS may be contributed synergically to malignant cell killing through ferrotosis. We don't know. This has to be evaluated. How to lower the doses? We need to find a way to lower the doses. Can ferrotosis be kinetically controlled by tuning iron release from the magnetic nanoparticle? This is a question. I don't know, just leaving questions with you, no answers. And we do have answers regarding this very nice experiment of Paula, magneto-targeting of adipose-derived mesenchymal stem cells loaded with magnetic nanoparticle constitute a novel and valuable nanotechnological tool to promote nerve regeneration by enhancing the cell arrival at the lesion site. And we can say also that field-assisted stem cell nanoparticle treatment can become a valuable therapy for peripheral neuropathies, just thinking in a translation to a clinic. Okay, you maybe ask yourself, why is she having a compass in the first slide? Well, I like to imagine the compass needle as a magnetic moment of a magnetic nanomedicine pointing to a north of health and longevity for the humanity. So this is why you have seen this. And I would like also to thank the agencies and everybody that is around. There are many collaborators I work with, my colleagues at Institute of La Plata, at ICIFIV, the Dr. Vega that make our applicator, the agencies, financial agencies, many colleagues that has collaborate directly with this work or indirectly, but all has had an input in this work in some way. And especially I would like to thank Dr. Patricia Seton. She's here. I hope she's listening too. She's a friend, she's a colleague. We have wonderful discussions about science, which I enjoy very much. And without her, this talk wouldn't be the same. So thank you, everybody. And I am open for questions if you have.
So Marcela, thank you very much for the interesting talk. I do have already a question that came through the chat, so I'm going to read it to you. It says, thank you, Professor. Thank you for the nice talk. I have two questions. First one, in your point of view, which morphology will you recommend for the hyperthermia applications?
A cubic morphology.
And the second, it relates to that. It says, can we use any better nanoheater to treat different cancer types?
We really don't know. Really don't know. What we know is that cubic nanoparticle is the one that if it is a nanoparticle and not a nanocluster. If it is a nanoparticle, the cubic shape is the better. If it is a nanocluster, we have two options. The particles crystallographically oriented of the particle randomly oriented. There is no consensus about which one is the better, but these are better heater than a single cube. This is for the first question. And regarding the second question, I really don't know. I can't say because I really don't know. I haven't found any different thing.
Thank you, Marcela. I don't know if there are questions that can be that they want to ask directly to you. If we see, I have one question myself, and is regarding the last part of the talk, which is, I think you and Patricia and Paula got very impressive results. And I wonder if you have any evidence that the mesenchymal cells with iron oxide nanoparticles, they have an enhanced regeneration effect. So you have shown very clearly that the tissue, the nerve is regenerated because you have more cells there. So you are able to recruit a large number of cells. But my question is, if it can happen that those cells have a higher regeneration potential.
Higher regeneration potential than the cells without nanoparticles. That's the question.
Exactly.
I think we will need to make an experiment, but we have to think about which experiment, because we see regeneration, but we see improvement in the regeneration. But
it's a very interesting point, Anna. I thank you for your comment because it's very interesting. We didn't do these experiments because we have to try the animals with adipose mesenchymal stem cell magnetic nanoparticle without magneto-targeting and to see whether they have the same ability as adipose mesenchymal stem cells, or if they have better qualities for regeneration. Perhaps the ion of the nanoparticle can contribute also to the regenerative ability of the adipose mesenchymal stem cells.
My point here is similar, it's also related to another issue that Marcela has tackled, in the sense that iron is able to generate some rose species, and the rose species might enhance the activity of the mesenchymal cells, because we have seen a similar results in this line. Okay, so
that in particular in the peripheral nervous system, we saw that iron at certain concentration, it's essential for regeneration. Okay. So in this case, I don't know if the ion of the nanoparticles will promote ROS generation, or it will be good for the regenerating ability of the adipose mesenchymal stem cells.
So good. Marcela, more questions. Thank you very much for the nice presentations. Leandro Lodoño, I have one question about the first part of the presentation. Do you have any idea about the mechanism behind the high dissolution rate of iron oxide in gold iron alloys compared to the bare iron oxide nanoparticles? So I understand that the kinetics of dissolution is faster in the alloy than in the iron oxide particles.
Yes, because the alloy is not thermodynamically stable, and they have done some DTF calculations, and in this calculation it was shown that iron can form some percolation paths, and through this percolation path can go some oxidation, and due to this oxidation is that the nanoparticle, the iron leaves the alloy. The iron is going out of the alloy, it's being expelled out of the alloy, and later we believe the alloy, what is left from the alloy, break in pieces. This is what happens. Okay. But it's out of equilibrium alloy. The iron oxide is not out of equilibrium, it's stable.
Perfect. A question from Victor Gonzalez. Professor Fernández, you talk about the delivery of different medical treatments. What would it take for the technology to become economically viable for large-scale deployment?
Well, I have to say again.
Difficult questions, huh?
It's very difficult question. Regulatory and now finance goes in there, and we are out of physics and chemistry and science there. So it's not a question for me. I just show this because I was surprised with all this formulation being withdrawn, not being used anymore. But from this point of view, I really prefer to say I do not know.
In the case of iron oxide for MRI, what I know is that the withdrawal from the market was mostly due to economical reasons, commercial reasons, rather than toxicity reasons. Because iron oxide is what is called a T2 agent, so a tissue gets darker, and radiologists like to work with another type of agents that is gadolinium based. So it seems to be a commercial reason. So because you have to sell a lot to make it viable. So it's so many aspects that it's very difficult. One more question. Also related to hyperthermia. How much is the recommended particle loading for the treatment if we consider the toxicity and degradation over time? So I guess the question is the balance between having a high load with bearable toxicity.
Yeah. Again, again, we haven't done this experiment. We have searched. We were searching for killing the cell and having the heat. So I already told we were thinking about what we have to do next. This is what happens. So we don't have a precise experiment that could allow us to respond how much we can place to lower toxicity. But if we keep the field, we are not having enough heating. I can show one let's say I can show this. This is a very old experiment, one of the first experiment, very nice work by Dr. Ingrid Hilger. And you see here, they use 21 milligram of iron oxide nanoparticle. But they use, this is like half what we have to use, but they use 4 times the frequency, using 4 times the frequency. So it's a difficult question, really difficult to ask.
Another question concerning hyperthermia. I'm sorry. I said another question concerning hyperthermia from Gopal Niraula, and he's asking, or she's asking, what do you think to use ferromagnetic nanoparticles instead of super paramagnetic ones to reduce the dose?
Well, this is going to be another heating mechanism, and it has been proved that these ones has been proved some years ago. It's a Jordan work. He proves that super paramagnetic nanoparticles are better heaters than ferromagnetic nanoparticles, which you have to consider the movement of the domain walls in the dissipation process. So I think we go to this kind of nanoparticle, we will have less heat, and we will have to put more iron instead of lowering the iron. So I do not think it's a good idea, but
yeah,
I haven't tried.
Still another question related to that by Juan Gabriel Ramirez Rojas. It said, hola Marcela, can you comment about the preferred heating mechanism, brown and Neal relaxation processes? So the preferred heating mechanism?
Yes. Prefer by who? What happens with the mechanism? The nanoparticle is fixed in the space, cannot move. Will make a Neal relaxation, but if can move, you have to look to relaxation times. The shorter, let's say we have the nanoparticles in the colloid, so both possibilities are open. So the shorter will occur first, and this is the one that will happen. But what happens is that we go and inject in a tumor. We change drastically the viscosity of the medium, and then most probably the nanoparticle is dissipating by Neal relaxation mechanism.
Yeah. Thanks. So I don't know if there is any more questions from the audience on the YouTube channel or here. So, okay. So I guess that's about it. Thank you very much, Marcela. A lot of information. And thank you also for inviting me to share this very nice webinar series. I don't know if Juan Gabriel and Quique want to close the webinar.
Okay, first, we want to applause, one applause for the webinar. It was very good, and many
Sorry,
thanks.
this was my fault. I will not be invited to be a chair, never.
No
So
problem.
yeah, please join
No
me to thank
problem.
Marcela.
But many thanks, Marcela and Anna, for contributing with such a nice work and presentation to this series of webinars. So thank you very much. Now, if the attendance
we don't hear you.
No, okay. Don't hear me. And I have. You should hear.
I hear him.
Okay. Thank you, Marcela. So now we have some time. If anybody wants to say anything, any comment, any question about Alma and how things are going. So that would be a good opportunity to talk about this. Probably we will have another webinar or another activity in December, maybe a webinar, maybe a roundtable discussion. We will see, we will let you know about this activity. And well, we would like to tell you also that pretty soon the different commissions of Alma on webinars on school, which will be held, school on magnetism at Latin American scale, will be held next year with the organization of Latin American people, but located in Porto Alegre for any presential activity. And we are looking forward also to establish the LOG3M meeting, which has been discontinued recently, but we expect that we can start doing this meeting again in the near future. And well, I don't know if there is any comment on these issues. Otherwise, if Diego Muraca or Juan Gabriel or Eugenio from Chile or Jose Matutes from Mexico want to make any comment.
Quique, Ana, thank you very much. Marcela also, thank you very much for your talk. It was very nice. I enjoyed it a lot. Usually we ask to the people to turn on the camera just to take a picture of the meeting. Then we are going to post in the different sites, Facebook, and so on. So just to close, to finish, if someone else wants to turn on the camera, please feel free. Juan, you allow them to turn on?
I think so.
When I asked my students to turn on the camera, and they said to me, "No, professor, we are in our pajamas."
Okay, that's a good reason for not to turn it on, for sure.
So I could never take the picture.
Okay, thank you, Marcela. That was a really nice talk. So
Juan, if you want to take some pictures of Maria, that always take a picture.
Miguel also is, I guess, taking pictures, but I can also do it.
Okay.
So I guess cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Okay, one more. Excellent. Oh, okay. Rafael. Wait,
Rafael was out.
Sorry. Okay, 1, 2. Excellent. Thank you, everybody. I guess I think that's pretty much everything. So stay tuned for new news about Alma. We will have something to show soon. So please check in Facebook. And I guess thank you everybody. Thank you, Kike.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Anna.
you.
See
Thank
you
you
soon.
all.
Thanks.
Bye.
Nice seeing all of you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Bye, Paula.
Bye, Paula. Bye, Patricia.